At 11:52 p.m., the rain tapped violently against the window of the old apartment, almost as if trying to break in and bring the night's cold truth with it. Evelyn Hart stood in the dim yellow light of her tiny kitchen, her hands trembling as she ran her fingers along the edges of a brittle envelope she had sworn never to open. The ink on the front, faded, smudged, and cracked, still carried three words she never dared to confront. Do not read. Her breath felt thin, the smell of wet asphalt outside mixed with the faint aroma of burnt tea she forgot on the stove, and as the seconds seemed to crawl, the ache in her chest pulsed harder, tighter. She knew, deep down she knew, she didn't have much time left. She sat at the small wooden table, the one her daughter had painted when she was 8, the one Evelyn never replaced, no matter how unstable its legs became. The trembling of the table matched the trembling of her own hands, and for a moment she closed her eyes, listening to the thunder outside. She tried to steady her breathing, but every inhale reminded her how fragile she had become. The envelope had been with her for 27 years. She had kept it hidden in her dresser behind old scarves and abandoned jewelry. She never threw it away. She never opened it. She simply carried it like a weight no one else could see, a weight that, tonight, felt heavier than the world itself. Her heartbeat throbbed against her ribs as she traced the familiar handwriting. She remembered the day she received the letter, a warm afternoon, flowers on the kitchen windowsill, laughter still in the air, and then silence. A knock on the door, an officer in uniform, eyes filled with a strange mixture of pity and exhaustion, and then the envelope, placed in her hand with a whisper. He asked that you receive this, but he also said you shouldn't read it unless you absolutely had to. Her husband, the man who left one morning and never came back, the man whose final note now sat between her fingers, demanding to be faced. Tonight, the envelope felt alive, pulsing with memories she had buried deep. Evelyn swallowed hard. Her pulse was slowing, irregular, each beat now accompanied by a cold tingling in her fingertips. She wished she didn't understand her body so well. Years of nursing had taught her exactly what these symptoms meant. She curled her fingers around the envelope. She knew she had 10 minutes, maybe less, 10 minutes to face a truth she had refused for nearly 3 decades. She took a breath that felt like shards of glass and whispered to the empty kitchen. "All right, I'm ready." With careful fingers, she slid a knife under the old paper and broke the seal. The sound, an almost imperceptible tear, echoed in the small room, louder in her chest than in her ears. She unfolded the letter. Her husband's handwriting looked rushed, uneven, a man torn between fear and urgency. She held the paper closer as her vision blurred for a second, cleared, then blurred again. "Evelyn, if you're reading this, then something went wrong, and I'm sorry. I need you to know this comes from a place of love." Her hands tightened around the paper. A tear fell onto the corner of the letter, and she brushed it away quickly, afraid to damage the only message he ever left behind. The rain outside intensified, a wild percussion against the windows. Evelyn swallowed and continued. "I made a mistake, years ago, before you and I built our life together, before Emma, before I even knew what I wanted in this world. Emma, their daughter, the reason Evelyn survived the first months after his death, the only light she held on to." She blinked hard and forced herself to keep reading. "I thought my past was gone, buried, but it found me, and it's not something you or Emma should have to pay for." Her breath hitched. What past? He had always been gentle, responsible, warm. What darkness could he possibly have carried? The next lines made her stomach drop. "Before I met you, I was part of something I should have never been involved in. I trusted the wrong people. I believed the wrong promises. and when I tried to leave, they didn't let go. Evelyn's grip tightened. Her fingers lost some of their warmth. The lights flickered. She glanced at the clock. 11:54 p.m. 6 minutes left, maybe. She forced her shaking eyes back to the letter. I knew they would come for me eventually. I thought I could outrun them. I thought I could keep you both safe. But today, when I left the house, I wasn't going to work. I was going to make sure they never touched you. That they would come for me, and only me. Her breath stopped for a moment. She remembered that day, how distracted he looked at breakfast, how he kissed Emma's forehead twice before leaving, how he hugged Evelyn for just a second longer. He knew he wasn't coming back. Tears streamed now, hot against her skin. I didn't want you to live with guilt, or fear, or the idea that you did anything wrong. You didn't. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Her chest tightened, her heart rhythm stumbling again. The officer might tell you it was an accident, maybe that I died instantly, maybe that I didn't suffer. Evelyn let out a trembling exhale. She remembered the officer's exact words. It was quick. He didn't feel anything. But now, her eyes scanned the next lines, and her pulse froze. But the truth is, they came for me, and I let them. I traded myself for both of you. The room spun. She clutched the edge of the table. He didn't die on the road. He didn't die by chance. He died because he saved them. She felt the floor shift under her feet as another wave of weakness washed through her body. The letter trembled in her hands. She checked the clock again. 11:59 p.m. 4 minutes. She forced herself to continue. I know this truth is heavy, and I asked you not to read this because I didn't want your life to be colored by my mistakes. I wanted you to go on, to raise Emma with love, to live a life unburdened by what I once was and what I had to do. Evelyn's tears fell faster now. I hope you choose to remember me for our mornings, our laughter, our small home filled with warmth, not the darkness I came from. Her vision blurred again. A sharp pain radiated across her chest, her arm, her jaw. She leaned forward, gasping softly. 11:59 p.m. 3 minutes. Her fingers struggled to hold the paper steady. And Evelyn, there's one last thing you must know. Her heart hammered painfully. None of this was your fault. The words hit her like a wave. She had lived with blame for 27 years, blamed herself for not stopping him, for not saying the right thing that morning, for not noticing the signs he hid so well. Her throat tightened until she could barely breathe. She blinked hard, reading the final lines through tears. Tell Emma I love her, and if someday she asks why I never came home, tell her the truth that matters, that her father chose her every time, always. The letter ended abruptly, as if written in haste, as if danger was already at the door. Evelyn pressed the paper against her chest, feeling every word burn into her heart. A wave of dizziness overtook her. She gasped, reaching for the table to steady herself, but her strength was fading fast. 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes. Memories flashed behind her eyes. Her wedding day, Emma's first steps, her husband dancing with their daughter in the living room, the warmth of his arms around both of them, the laughter, the promises, the life they built. A soft sob escaped her lips. I should have read it sooner, she whispered to the empty room. I should have known. She looked around the dim kitchen. Photos on the wall, Emma's childhood drawings, the chipped mug her husband used every morning. Everything suddenly felt painfully alive, precious, final. 11:59 p.m. 1 minute. Her breathing grew shallow. Her fingers went numb. The edges of the room darkened, narrowing into a tunnel of fading light. She placed the letter gently on the table, smoothing its edges as if it were something sacred. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Thank you for loving us." Her vision flickered, her head tilted forward, her body leaning heavily against the table. The ticking of the clock grew louder, each second stretching into eternity. And then, 12 a.m. Silence. The letter lay open beneath her hand, finally read after 27 years. The truth, painful, heavy, heroic, had reached her in her last 10 minutes. The rain softened outside, as if the night itself bowed its head in quiet respect. In the dim kitchen, Evelyn's face rested peacefully, her final breath given not to fear, but to understanding. The envelope lay beside her, no longer a burden, no longer a secret, just a final love letter from a man who never stopped choosing her. And the night, carrying the weight of truths revealed too late, held her gently as the world moved on.